If you've been scrolling through endless camera specs, watching side-by-side comparison videos, and still can't decide whether a dedicated monochrome camera is worth the extra cash, this review is here to help you cut through the noise. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I spent a few weeks testing the Leica Monochrom Q3 in a mix of street photography outings, portrait sessions, and even a bit of documentary work, so I'll walk you through the moments that matter before you make the plunge. Let's start with the biggest question most people have: do I really need a 60-megapixel black and white sensor, or can I get the same look by converting color files in post? The answer depends on how you intend to use the images. The Monochrom Q3 isn't just a color camera with a filter turned off, it actually lacks a Bayer filter altogether. That means every photon that hits the sensor is recorded as luminance data, not divided into red, green, and blue channels. In practice, that translates to richer tonal gradations, smoother shadow detail, and a natural grain structure that you simply can't fake with software. If you're a fine art photographer who prints large-format black-white work or a documentary shooter who needs the most faithful representation of light and texture, the sensor's capability is a real advantage. On the flip side, if you're primarily shooting color images and only occasionally dip into monochrome for artistic effect, the Q3's dedicated sensor feels like an over-engineered niche tool. The camera is priced in the seven-figure range for a system that limits you to a single color palette, and you'll be paying a premium for a sensor that only works for one type of output. For those people, a high-resolution color camera paired with a good post-processing workflow will give you enough flexibility without the hefty investment. Now, what does the day-to-day experience actually look like? The Q3's redesign of the user interface is more than just a cosmetic refresh. The menus are rearranged to prioritize black and white specific settings like Dynamic Range Optimizer and Highlight Recovery. I appreciated being able to toggle the tonal curve on the fly, something that would normally require diving into a separate software suite. During a rain-soaked street shoot in Berlin, I could adjust the contrast sliders while holding the camera to the wet cobblestones, and the camera responded instantly, preserving the gritty texture without sacrificing highlight detail. That level of immediacy is rare in dedicated monochrome systems, where many manufacturers tuck essential controls deep in hidden menus. One practical strength that becomes evident quickly is the high-res video capability. The Q3 shoots 8K video at 30 frames per second, still in pure monochrome. For filmmakers, that means you can capture incredibly detailed, film-like footage without the need for color grading. I tested the video mode on a short documentary about a local blacksmith, and the recorded footage retained the subtle variations in metal sheen and forge smoke that would otherwise get flattened in a typical color pipeline. If you're planning to create monochrome video content, think art installations or stylized narratives, the Q3 gives you a raw, high-definition canvas straight out of the sensor. However, the high-resolution video also exposes a hidden trade-off: storage. Shooting 8K monochrome footage at 60 megabits per second fills a 128 gigabytes card in about half an hour. If your workflow doesn't already include a robust archival system, you'll quickly find yourself downloading, backing up, and managing massive file sizes. That's not a deal-breaker, but it's a logistical hurdle that can catch new owners off guard. The Leica brand's content credentials feature is another point that deserves a closer look. The camera embeds a cryptographic signature into each file, confirming the image's provenance and ensuring it hasn't been altered after capture. For photographers who sell limited editions or work in fields where authenticity is paramount, such as fine art prints or archival journalism, this built-in verification can be a genuine differentiator. In my tests, the signature remained intact through multiple rounds of raw processing, making it a trustworthy tool for anyone needing irrefutable proof of originality. That said, the Q3's distinctive monochrome design isn't just about the sensor. The entire body is finished in matte black with minimal chrome, which gives it a classic Leica silhouette but also makes it slightly less conspicuous on the street. Some photographers love that understated look, others feel it draws more attention than a typical black and white camera would. If you rely on a low-profile presence to capture candid moments, you might find the camera's design a subtle hindrance. Battery life is another practical consideration where the Q3's real-world performance diverges from its spec sheet. Leica states that the battery can handle about 380 shots per charge, but that number assumes still shooting in a fairly static environment. When I pushed the camera through a full day of street work, constantly switching between stills and video, the battery dropped to 30% after roughly 250 shots. Swapping out the battery halfway through the day is manageable, but it does mean you'll need a spare or a reliable external power solution for longer assignments. Who should buy the Leica Monochrom Q3? If you are a professional or serious enthusiast whose primary output